Hello again, Broadleaf Junkie here. I had another talk with Jeff Morey from JM Cigar Company. After I talked lengthily with him about his passion for tobacco and how all of that escalated into building his own brand, I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into his approach in building his own brand with all that comes with it. Creating your own band designs, finding your target audience, the marketing strategies, collaborative partners, you name it. Let's find out about his way from makeshift tries to collaborative growth. After last time we spoke, is there anything from what we talked about that stuck with you, what you and what you would like to pick up again?
I don't know if there's anything super specific. I think once we get on a topic, I might start diving in, and I'll try to be a uh, more more precise in some of my responses and not over the top excited.
All right, because I think I would love to talk about or just a little bit about how you are right now building your brand. But beforehand, I thought we might dive into a couple of things that came up last time that I thought could use some, well, just further light on it.
For sure, for sure.
And one of the things that stuck with me was we talked a lot about you learning or teaching yourself how to roll, but I've never asked you what your favorite style of rolling is, or what the way is you roll your cigar.
That's an excellent question. Yep, and there'll be some pictures as well to help depict this. I've tried the three main styles that I've kind of dabbled with a little bit is I'll get to the last one that I use most often, but there's stacking, so you can take half leaf or a full leaf and fold it down, and you just basically stack on top of each other, and then you roll the whole stack together. That's okay, and I think it's a lot easier starting out to do it in that sort of way, just because you're not doing anything super crazy. You're just stacking it and rolling it, and then put that in a mold or newspaper strips to mold it up into a cylinder. Another way is an accordion. So you take the leaf and you fold it on itself, kind of like an accordion, and then put each of the leaves together in that manner, and then you use your binder leaf to roll it up. And I haven't done much of that style. The style that I do more so is entubado. And entubado, I like to, and the way I do it, it's like making a bunch of little straws. So you take each individual leaf and you roll that up so it looks like a straw. And then you take a bunch of the straws and different types of leaf, put them together, and then bind those up. And the reason why I like doing it that way is because of microchannels. So we've all had cigars that, might have a hard spot, or, oh, this section right here might be a little bit more plugged or hard to draw through. So what I found doing the entubado, or making straws per se, you have all these different micro channels of airflow allowing a better burn, better combustion. And let's say one of those leaves get crinked, or you have a restricted airflow in one of them, you have multiple other capillaries or channels that air can funnel through. Plus, it allows me to sometimes rotate the leaf. So usually tip of a leaf will go towards the foot of the cigar, and the tip of the leaf is going to be where the stronger concentration of your nicotine, your power, your flavors, and then it kind of comes back into the end of the leaf, which is the closest part to the stem of the plant. And I play around with different ways. Sometimes I'll have some tips towards the foot, some tips towards the head of the cigar. And the reason why I like doing that way sometimes, depending upon what the blend is you can start with certain flavors or aromas, and they're the most prominent. But then as that cigar starts burning through, you're eventually transitioning the strength of different leaf, that if you have the tips down towards the bottom, then it starts with hints of maybe that flavor, and then it starts ramping up, and then it gets stronger because the tips are going to be more towards the head of the cigar.
So the entubado style helps you
So entubado.
tweak and play with the blends you make without adding different or other tobaccos to it. Just with the ones you already use, just try to
Right.
swap one, and all right. But with which style of rolling you started? What was the first you tried and learned?
So the first way is stacking, and that way I did it a few times, and it felt okay. What it does, at least, and it's probably just the leaf that I use for that particular blend, because if you get bigger or thicker leaf and then stack it and then roll all of them together, sometimes you can get a bigger ring gauge. You also want to make sure that you bind it well enough, because I feel that if you have that much compression on that much leaf in one type of orientation, it could bust your wrapper, or you could get almost like that exploding as you're smoking it down. What Entubado has done, though, is it's allowed me to get more complex, more leaf, more varieties in the same type of ring gauge than, say, by stacking it.
So what you also just said was, if you have a cracked wrapper on your cigar, it has not necessarily to do with that you stored it wrong. It could be a construction issue.
Could be, yes, 100%. 100%. At least from my experience, yes.
Lately, I've seen a lot of posts on social media where they are saying, no, if that happens, you stored it wrong, and look how you store your cigars. No, it can be a construction issue, obviously.
Yes. Yep. Well, some days maybe that roller just had a bad day, or just maybe his boss was yelling at him, or him or her, and maybe something just got mixed up. It could be that. It could be storage. There's lots of different variables that could be with it, but I think pinpointing it to just one specific thing. Oh, it's always this. It's always that.
No, there's a lot of different things that could cause the same issue.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, nice. So entubado it is.
And you can do full leaves, you can do half leaves, and uh, I think I sent you a couple of them that I played out with the cigars that have leaf from 10, 11 different countries. With those ones, I did entubado as well, but I took half leaves. So I removed the center stem out of the leaf, took a half a leaf, and then took another half a leaf, and then I put those together and I rolled those up into cylinders. And it, it was crazy because I was taking a Ligero and a Seco because you know the Ligero is going to be stronger and it burns a little bit less. So I threw a Seco in with it to help with that combustion. And then you got different flavors marrying together with each individual tube or section that that's going to play a factor as well too, and how it all marries together and plays together as well. Um, you know, Obviously making sure that uh, two thick leaves aren't exactly right butt up against each other. You want to make sure that there's some combustion or better combustion leaf to help with that burnability. Otherwise, you'll be smoking a cigar and you're going to constantly have that point where the Ligero is typically in the middle because it's slower burning.
Yeah, so entubado is the style, and um, last time we also talked about molds or a way to don't use molds and make sure that the cigars are rolled properly with other techniques. What tools do you use when you roll?
So tools starting out, don't overcomplicate it. When I started, it was, uh, is this something that I want to continue doing? I obviously like cigars and we all like cigars, but is rolling something that I really want to continue with? So I started cheap. I'm just found a cheap cutting board, a pizza cutter, and a little copper tube that you use as a cap cutter. And you don't even need that. You could use scissors. You could use a pizza cutter or just a blade. You could use a knife and just cut around it, just to try it out. Um,
Metal
since
tube
then,
you
it
used,
kept evolving.
the metal tube you used to put punch out the caps, basically.
Mm-hmm. So imagine like um, a punch cutter, right? You got that little cylinder that's going to create the punch in there, but bigger. And then you just rotate that around on the leaf to create your circle. That will be your cap for your cigar, as long as it's a parejo, like a round cap.
So basically, a lot of makeshift things to get the work done, to try out how I
Yep,
could do it.
yep.
Yeah, I like the idea with the
And
pizza cutter. Yeah,
mhm. And honestly, it's not rocket science. It's just fine. I believe that anybody could do it with the tools that they have in their house right now. Right now.
I'm a little bit concerned if Omar de Frias, the Fratello guy, would sometime in the future sue us for using his claim. It's not rocket science.
Well, well, I don't know if is he still is he still working at NASA? I thought I saw an article where he was retired, but either way, uh, a great guy in the industry too. Fratello, his blends are great, and I think that he does some wonderful things with some Peruvian leaf in some of his blends. I really dig that Peruvian tobacco.
And he's a chill dude.
I'd love to meet him. So if he sees this, let's meet sometime.
We also talked, I'm
Yeah.
not sure if we did this on record or off, but we talked about Wisconsin as a tobacco region. What tobacco is or was grown in Wisconsin? You know that?
Yep. So there are certain varieties that I grew them last year. But so Edgerton, Wisconsin was a very big tobacco city, and you can still drive through Edgerton, Wisconsin. You can see old buildings that has like company names of tobacco manufacturing and historic buildings that are there. And I think that the most popular variety that came out of it was Comstock Spanish. It's a good leaf for pipe. It's a good leaf for
Yeah.
cigars. Very rich, good tobacco. And then there's a handful of other ones. I grew Wisconsin 901 last year. I'm excited to dive into it, but I gotta let all my stuff sit because I let it passively age for a few years before I even want to attempt to try it. Because if you try to do it too soon, you don't want to be smoking hay. You don't want to be smoking something that tastes like burnt leaves.
Well, yeah.
Well,
This is tobacco.
even
That's still grown in Wisconsin, but not on a large scale.
I think a lot, right. I think a lot of cigar tobaccos are very minimal. I've been trying to find a lot of them, or I've been trying to seek out different farms in Wisconsin that do grow cigar tobacco and just networking with folks to try to find some in. And the consensus with a lot of people that I've been networking with is, oh yeah, my buddy, his family grew tobacco. And I'm like, oh great. Well, I'd love to meet him. Well, they stopped growing it a few years ago just because of labor costs, because of and how labor intensive that it is. So I haven't found any yet outside of the small amounts that I grow, but there is still. I think the vast majority of the tobacco farms do it for like cigarette type varieties. It might be Virginia a type of tobacco leaves, or I don't. Burley is more so down in like your Kentucky and Tennessee. Um, but yeah, I think it's in Wisconsin, based upon my current research, it's more so for cigarettes
All right.
these days.
Yeah. So
Unfortunately.
This is something you maybe could dive into somewhen in the future and think, okay,
Oh yeah.
established,
Oh yeah.
and now we grow something here and try to do something with it.
Yep. And I would love to have more acres on my property. However, I'm also restricted as well too. So anything that I grow, I no, I'm not able to put it on giant pylons. It's very micro batch, and some experimental type stuff that I've been messing around with. And now it's just a waiting game. I keep them in Ziploc bags and I have humidity in there and I'm passively letting it age. However, you can build an apparatus such as a kiln, a KILN, to rapid age it. Um, I don't have the space for it right now.
Okay, so
I don't have the space, but
you're restricted because you don't have the space and not because there are actual restrictions when it comes to that.
correct, correct,
All right.
correct.
So when we
Yep.
are talking about tobacco and that there's tobacco that is also grown in Wisconsin, um, earlier you said there's so many varieties of tobacco, and most factories don't use them. What do you take from this?
Well, and what I think is that, there's a tried and true varieties that have been grown: Dominican Republic, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, all these countries that we have smoked cigars from and use similar types of leaves. And some of these factories very well could be using some of these other varieties. However, they have weeded out, so to speak, certain varieties that perform a little bit differently. So, down in the Dominican Republic or Nicaragua, certain varieties are going to grow very well down there, whereas other varieties might not so much. Same with the region up here, or Germany for that matter. The weather and how certain seasonalities are, and your temperature, your relative humidity, what's happening in your specific region, certain varieties are going to be able to produce better results than others. And, with cigar tobacco in general, this year I'm growing Lancaster seed leaf. I'm growing Ahus, which the Ahus is growing very, very interesting. And it's an early finisher. K2-24. I'm also growing some Florida Sumatra, which is from Florida. Almost kind of like that Florida Sungrown that's in the FSG cigars. So
Yeah.
there's so many more, but it all depends upon where you are. So like for us in Wisconsin, it's not going to be the same climate as Florida, or in the Caribbean, where you could grow pretty much all year round. Whereas Wisconsin, we have uh, very cold and dry winters and very hot and humid summer times. So our growing season is pretty much one shot. Um, you could probably get two if you overlap it a little bit, but there's going to be temperature swings, and when you have temperature swings or humidity swings, that's going to affect the plant in a different way, and promote different stresses on the plant that it could bring out, more strength, different types of aromas, different types of terpenes per se within that plant, where you know you might grow Florida Sumatra, I might grow Florida Sumatra, and somebody in Florida might be growing Florida Sumatra. All seeds from the very same plant, same genetics, same everything, but the temperature patterns and what happens in those areas throughout the year uh, has a different effect on how that plant grows and produce different results. So it might be the exact same plant grown in different areas, but our areas might produce slightly different results with that same plant.
Tried and true. As you said, it's not just about I can use this tobacco and bring this flavor to the profile of the blend I am putting together, but also in terms of I'm growing this, I know this works here.
Yep. One really popular with the factories that I've been talking to, so everybody knows broadleaf. So Pennsylvania broadleaf, for example. So grown in Pennsylvania, We get that rich, strong nicotine hit out of it, kind of earthy, kind of punchy. Whereas now there's some phenomenal Pennsylvania broadleaf that's being grown right in the Dominican Republic. So in the U.S., it's a lot stronger, a lot thicker. Where I've tried some from the Dominican Republic, and oh, Ollie, it's some good leaf. It's maybe not as punchy, but the aromas, the flavors are going to be there. Just grown in different soil, different climates. That's a perfect example where uh, just about any cigar smoker might be able to taste the differences between just that Pennsylvania broadleaf.
So there are a lot of tried and true tobaccos that get featured heavily in a lot of different blends from a lot of different factories. And then there are those tobaccos that don't get this much attention. We are talking briefly about this undisclosed
Yep.
tobacco
Yeah.
in the blend. What's your stance
hmm
on that?
That's a great question. I love that question. Um, the undisclosed to me is, a lot of blenders, their blends are their recipe. That's uh, they created it. That's their how, like how people put certain recipes together for cooking. This is my burger recipe. This is my chicken recipe, or whatever. But for cigars, you know, I'm a big proponent of sharing. You know, there's so many other variables. Um, uh, Crop season, like certain things that change, you know, throughout each individual crop. Where your factory is located, where the farm is located. Um, you know, if I, you know, if somebody told you what exactly every single leaf was in a Tatuaje TAA or something like that. You know, that's all leaf that comes from a farm, or even Fuente. Fuente is a good example. All of his leaf is grown from his farms. So if he told you every single leaf, would you be able to replicate it? No, because it all comes from his factory. It all comes from his farms.
You
So
could recreate it, but it would have been it would have a whole different
exactly,
flavor profile.
exactly. That's why I have no problem telling people every single leaf in my blends, because are you going to have the exact same leaf from the exact same year, from the exact same farm, which goes back to us growing the same type of tobacco type from the same plant. We all have seeds that you're growing in Germany, I'm growing in Wisconsin, somebody growing in Florida. It's going to taste different. It's going to be different. So that's where, like, the undisclosed, I think there's some marketing play in there, but it adds to the allure of the mystery, which is fine. But I'm a big proponent of, this is what it is. Replicate it if you want to try. It's going to taste different, you know. But
Well,
I'm
as I understand it, there's one cigar that totally blew this undisclosed filler tobacco over the top. The cigar, it's a great cigar. It has a great story, but they couldn't market that they
correct.
had Cuban tobacco in it, made a great cigar out of it, couldn't sell it on the American market for a long, long time, then got into the American market, said, okay, is an undisclosed tobacco. I don't know if they still had those tobacco left to produce that amount of it, but
hmm
this kind of, this one cigar kind of escalated this undisclosed strategy for other cigars that, or other factories that thought, okay, if you say undisclosed, everyone would think, oh, it's a Cuban tobacco. And
Yep. Um, I've seen that too happen over the years, where certain companies, where you hear through the rumblings of conversations that, oh, there there might be some Cuban tobacco in there, and I'm like, all right, and that's fine, you know. Um,
and it
I
might
think,
be right if it comes from Spain, because they could
mhm,
use Cuban tobacco until a couple of years back.
yep,
So
yep. And there's that too. And hey, if that's how they have to, well, and perhaps that might be where how they have to do it in order to bring that cigar to the market, if that's the way that it is, because of how um, all the regulations and all the laws and everything like that are with Cuban tobacco, and how, at least in the USA, how more stringent it's been. And it's been kind of a roller coaster over the years on how it can be marketed, how you can get it, how you can procure it, or it's look at Cuba now. It's kind of sad to see. I wish I don't know everything on the political aspect of it all, but I think that there's a lot of opportunities for uh, Cuba and Cuban tobacco to. I mean, how great would it be to be able to proudly proclaim that Cuba and Nicaraguan tobacco is in a certain cigar, and it could be marketed everywhere, that would be great. But there's so much political conversations that could sway that one way or another. And I'm like, that's that's above my head. So
there's a lot to overcome for this.
100%, 100%.
When we are talking about a lot to overcome, and about, well, marketing, as we are already doing, um, you kind of building your brand right now, and you are an underdog. You educated yourself with this. You don't come from a long line of people that work with tobacco. You're not from a tobacco family. You never worked in a factory. How do you think about marketing that brand to come, and what do you think do you have to overcome to get in the industry, to get there?
Excellent question. So, uh, you know, I started this as more of a challenge to myself. Like, I had certain things happen in life where I'm just like, you know what? It created a driving force, and kind of drove that passion in me to want to do it, and continue to do it. And marketing up into this point has just been, you know, it's almost like going to cigar lounges or hanging out with your buddies and having cigars. And it was just like, hey, try this out. I'm just messing around with this. Try out this blend. And I've done it so many times throughout the years that the rolling got better, the blends got better. I will say I've made some pretty crap blends to begin with, um, but it's almost like failing forward, or knowing what you don't like, and then keep moving forward. And there's blends that I've made that I don't like, but other people like, and that speaks to different palates. But marketing in general, it's more so guerrilla marketing. It's more so uh, building it with your friends, word of mouth. Like, hey, this tastes good. This crazy guy from Wisconsin is doing this, and if you try it and you like it, you're going to tell somebody about it. So, and it's all in that type of word of mouth that I like it. Like, I don't, I don't have the budget to, you know, blast it out there and pay for a sponsorship here or there or whatever. I just have started working with individuals who like to geek out a little bit or take their knowledge base to the next level where, hey, you want to try blending something? Let me throw something together for you and try it out. Or, hey, you always wanted to see what these kind of leaf combinations tasted like and you haven't seen it on a mass-produced cigar? Let's try it out. Let's see what it tastes like. Now, is it going to be the same as some of these big factories or big fields that produce it? It's probably going to taste a little bit different. But everything up to this point and until things get moving, it's all word of mouth. It's all people being excited, people seeing it and wanting to try it. Getting them to try some of the tobacco. Sending it out to people, just it's does it cost something? Sure, but it costs something also when you're sitting in a lounge with a buddy and sharing a few cigars here and there. You know, in my opinion, it doesn't make that much of a difference. When I'm sharing stuff with people, it's like I'm sharing stuff with my buddies where I'm sitting at a lounge with them, but where we might be in different states, we might be in different countries. So sending it over to different people to try out is, in my opinion, it's almost no different than shooting the shit at a lounge and chopping it up like we're doing right now.
So experimenting with tobacco and having conversations about it and having people to try it and talk about it and think about this stuff is basically the guerrilla marketing strategy you have right now, and also your approach to the brand you will build out of your passion.
Correct. Yep.
When you blend, where do you draw inspiration from?
Ooh, that's a great question too.
Is it just like, I have this tobacco that is interesting, this has this flavor profile, let's see what it does?
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it's just I see what leaf that I have, and sometimes I have like a wrapper that I want to build a blend around, or a binder, or certain specific fillers that I want to put together and try out. Like we talked about last time, I have cataloged every single premium cigar that I bought. And sometimes I might want to be like, all right, I want to reverse engineer a Padron or something like that. And like I try to match up as close as I possibly can. Obviously, it's not going to be exactly the same, but it still creates a pretty nice smoking cigar that would be enjoyable for everybody. And then also talking with people. My palate and my experience for as long as I've done it is just one person. But then talking with people and educating, well, what kind of cigars do you normally smoke? What do you like? What do you pair it with? Do you like lighter cigars in the summertime, darker cigars in the winter time? Is there a certain type of tobacco leaf that you like? You smoked one of the cigars that had that Indonesian, Indonesian Bazuki in it, you know, and how that played with it, because other people really like that blend or really like that leaf, and when I hear somebody's like, well, I don't know, I'm like, that's great. That's wonderful. I love hearing that because of how your palate is with that particular type of leaf. So then adjust around that.
Yeah, but this particular cigar was, for me, the problem was never the wrapper, but there was a huge amount of olor.
Oh, yes, it was a lore, not Bazuki. That's right.
I don't, personally, just don't really get or come to like. So I could tell you what it was that didn't make an interesting or pleasing
Right.
experience for me. So that's something that's not just like, oh, I didn't like it, but I could tell you it was
could
because
tell.
of this, and that's just me.
Yep.
So
Well, and that type of experience is exciting for me as well too, hearing that, because I'm taking mental notes with each individual person that I share with or get to try the cigars. And a lot of the times you get the feedback, oh, it's good, or it's great, it burned nice, it's a good tasting cigar, and that's great. I love hearing that feedback as well too. But but hearing different experiences where it might be this particular leaf, it might be that, it might be this, it it gets more specific, and um, it helps me think, okay, well, is it too much of that one leaf? Does it need to be backed up? Does it need to be replaced? So my mind then starts going almost like a flow chart. If this, then that. If this, then that. So how to adjust it where, you know, folks that might not be as partial towards a lower or a specific type of leaf, well, maybe I take something out, put something else in, or maybe cut the ratios a little bit differently and see how that plays. But then now we're going into a whole new tasting cigar again, and how does that taste now compared to, what do I say? And a lot of other people say that this as well too. 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, and how that changes over time as well too. Uh, you need to have enough to be able to try that out, because, hey, it might not be good within the first 3 months, but once that 3 month mark hits, or 3 month ish, it might start singing, and you're just like, wow, I'm so glad I didn't write that off. But sometimes we don't know, and that's some of the exciting pieces of it as well too. Just time, it's time to grow, like how much time it takes to grow it, how much time to color cure, to age it, to then blend it, and then roll it and let it sit. What conditions are they sitting in? How long are they sitting? So that's something about this entire industry that is very exciting for me, because in this day and age, everybody wants everything here and now, here and now, here and now, but you can't rush it. It's taking that step back, um, letting time do its thing, and seeing how it ends up in the long run. That's exciting, and it's also disheartening sometimes when it doesn't turn out the way that you think it's gonna.
yeah, there are of funny stories from a couple of different people from the industry that made some blends that didn't work out in the end after, well, months or years of humidor time or aging room time. And yeah, but we're still talking blends and cigars. And let's think about something else. You have a great cigar in your hand, you smoke it, it tastes great, but on the other hand, you have something that kind of catches your eye when you
Yep.
go into the humidor.
Yep.
Today, especially today with like Instagram and other social media stuff, the blend that should speak for itself doesn't do that anymore. Think about what's it called? Cavalier cigars?
Yep.
They're good
Yep.
blends, but the first thing that comes to mind when you think about them is the gold leaf
Yep.
on the leaf outside. So when you market a cigar, you have some kind of storytelling you need. Circling back to my question before, like JC Newman, they always have this unique selling point. We're doing this for a couple of 100 years from the same place. We're doing it now. We're a tobacco family. And on the other hand, you have to have something catchy on
Yep.
your cigar
Yep.
to get the eye of the smoker who wants to buy one in a lounge. Is there something in the making with you already? Are you thinking about that? Are you doing stuff in this direction? Or are you actually just right now just blending and having fun with it? Or yeah,
Yep.
what's your stance on that?
So great question. And what I do with stuff that I roll up, sometimes it's just I have fun with it. Okay, I try it, and then without designing a band, and then I'll design a band with something that first pops into my mind and just make it around there. Starting out, once you get into, and I'm working with a couple factories, and I'm working with band makers, and the more complicated, the more expensive it can sometimes be as well. But if you have too much noise on it or too many elements, certain elements of that band can be lost in translation. It can just be overlooked. And your eyes draw to one particular thing when, okay, there's all this other stuff on there. And I've seen that with a lot of bands that I've tried recently. Is there's so many elements, and so with the people that I've been working with, I I tended to go on that kind of route, and then they're like, Jeff, you got to dial it back. Let's keep it simple. And even my lady, she's just like, yeah, that looks nice, but simplify it. I think having a simple design with not 1,000 different elements that draws your eyes to the important pieces on that marketing or on that band or on that packaging is what you'll remember. And to the point you mentioned something, letting the blends speak for themselves. That's near and dear to my heart. At the end of the day, you'll look at that band, and yes, you'll remember that band. But how often do you remember smoking a cigar where you're like, oh my God, this tastes exactly like this, or or the aroma that I'm getting off this reminds me of this childhood memory, or grandma baking, or a certain awesome meal, steak meal, or something like that I had, and it's bringing back those memories that just based upon that experience that you had with that particular blend of a cigar, and that's what I try to shoot for is the aromas, the flavors, the experience, the thought-provoking memories that get circled back up in your mind that now gets associated with that particular cigar that you're smoking. So when it comes to the band, then I'm just trying to keep it somewhat simple so you know who made it, what the name of it is, but not, you know, uh, additional gold coins or uh, tons of elements on it that it deviates from that. I want to keep it clean and simple and let that blend and cigar bring out those flavors, bring out those memories, and that's what you remember it of. And then I would say that would be the first thing that you remember, and then the band is going to be the second thing that you remember after you're like, wow, okay, what is this? Okay, you think of the experience, and then you're like, wow, you look at the band, and then 2 and 2 together at that point. Opposed to, like you said, you go into a lounge and you look at the bands, and the bands kind of stand out on certain ones, and oh, that one looks nice, but maybe that you light up that cigar and it's not in your wheelhouse, you know. So it's
So
kind of that element, but it's more so that flavors the experience.
your point is, if the flavor is right, if the cigar hits right, then you remember the band
Yes.
of the
Yeah.
cigar, opposed to you go into a humidor and look for the flashy thing.
100%. Yes. Yep.
Okay, just um, sit with this for a minute, because um, most of the cigars that really stuck with me had in the end not that great a band. Think Tatuaje, for example. The tiny label with the weird font that it's printed on, or the Liga Privada is also
Mm-hmm.
a very
Great
simple
examples.
band.
Yep.
Or, well, Roma Craft cigar.
Yep.
The band design is simple, it's clean. Something when you go into a humidor, you see things like my father's cigar. This is something that catches your eyes. Perdomo, great cigar.
Yep. Yep.
They are kind of over the top when it comes to the band.
Right. Right. And I agree. They're all great, but a great analogy and great example that there's more elements to those bands and more recognition based upon that company and what they want to do with it. Does it make it any better than anybody else's? No, but in certain elements, it reminds you, like Perdomo. There's multiple different lines out there. Great cigar company, but you when you have that many blends, and then you have those elements that all like there's a lot of Perdomo smokers, so once they see that certain new band or whatever, it clicks with a lot of people that, okay, maybe there can be more elements on there, but there's commonalities with it that draw people if they are, visiting a um, different lounge or something like that, and they have a brand new Perdomo there. Oh, okay, well, you know, that I recognize in that manner. Very similar to Tatuaje, but it's a lot cleaner and more simple. I think it's just how people go about it. Maybe it's the time within the industry, or maybe it's just how they like to prefer to market it to their customers as well. Uh, but I like simple. I like it simple. And
The thing with both companies is you have instant recognition
yes,
when you see the band, as well as when you smoke their cigar.
yes,
Even if there's no band on it, you will know this is definitely a Perdomo, this is a Tatuaje. Now, if you basically are planning to go into the market with something completely new, something that nobody knows so far. So that's why I'm wondering, how do you want to, what is it from a visual standpoint you want to do to hook people, or have that, I think this word is perfect for it, recognition.
yep, yep.
when they
And
go into the humidor and see your stuff.
yep, and I can touch on that right now. Is I'm working with two different factories, and I'm kind of approaching both of them a little bit differently. Um, seeing how their process goes, seeing how the bands go, how the designs go, and I'm very involved with all of it. And with one factory, the bands are going to be a little bit more ornate or a little bit more elements, but not loud. But it's a theme around it. And then with the other factory, still another theme, but in a different way, and a little bit more simpler of bands. So I'm kind of testing it out a little bit to seeing how the reception is because of uh, the quantities and the volume that I'm getting is going to be a little bit. It's going to be lower than what a lot of people typically launch with, but I wanted to bring more blends, more flavors, more variety right out of the gate and keep the overall quantities lower. Um, One, exclusivity or limited amounts is great, um, but seeing what speaks to a lot more people and being able to pivot faster with those, whether it's keeping all of them around, whether it's adjusting them in some way, whether it's adding additional blends into these specific kind of themes with each individual factory. Um, you know, I'm a big proponent of if something's not working, pivot, and being able to be nimble enough to be able to pivot faster. I think that's what helps um, be able to go the right direction. You know, you can't just be going 90 miles an hour down a highway. Sometimes you might need to take a pit stop and go around a different way in order to get to your destination, maybe either a little bit quicker or in a way that's more fluid or beneficial for everyone, not just the owner of a company, but also for the smokers who are experiencing it. You know, uh, yeah, that's. Hopefully, I explained that well enough.
Well, I take two things from this. The first is failing forward will remain the course, and I do really like this. And the other thing I think I heard was that you are not only incorporate your ideas, but only the ones of the factories you are working with into the design of the band.
And it's I'm not, let's say another factory comes along, that might open another opportunity. You see different brands have different kind of lines. We talked about Tatuaje, brown label, black label. There's different variations to all of them. And I would be very forthcoming, on with one of the factories. I said, you know what? Let's put your factory logo on the bands as well too. Like, let's give you recognition. Since they are smaller factories, let's grow together. And maybe there's more opportunities down the road with other factories as well too. But these are the two I got in with right out of the gate, and you know, I had great experience with them, great conversation, and it was a good relationship. So, let's let's test it out and let's see what we can do, you know. And is it going to be forever? Hopefully, but you know, hopefully it also allows additional expansion and the ability to work with other smaller factories as well too. You know, I look at it as we're bringing each other up. You know, we're growing each other together, that everybody can have a slice of the pie. You know, everybody can make money. Everybody can uh, feel encouraged. Everybody can feel proud of what they're producing and putting out there and getting recognition for it. You know, I think that's what helps build strong friendships and business relationships in the long run.
All right. Uh, Thinking a little bit about it, what would you say would make sense to use as a story or backstory for your brand to advertise with? I mean, it could be some kind of the story of the company you're working on this blend with, and on the other hand, your story, how you came to create this blend, how you came to find them. There's always something you can tell with your cigars, or well, to advertise for them. What's your stance on that? What's your idea about it?
So, and how you know, and I'm in the process of getting the website up, but I look at all of it as a journey. You know, starting smoking cigars, doing cigar reviews, collecting, trying anything I can get my hands on, um, palette changes, trying different leaf, and then, you know, how everything kind of converged around the COVID time, where just geeking out on cigars that I've had and dissecting them, trying to look at factors, trying to look at all the different leaves, but then how that's progressed into rolling and blending stuff myself, how that's progressed into relationships with different people have got me in introductions with the two factories that I'm working with now. You know, that how that story has progressed over the years, and how timing just occurred at the right moments throughout the years. Sometimes when I knew it was going to happen, and sometimes when it just happens, you know. Uh, and then how the stories with each individual factory that I'm working with, how the blend names and packaging and everything like that, I think are fitting based upon each factory that I'm working with. You know, one factory has won many awards down in the Dominican Republic with their type of tobacco and their blends that they've done so far. And that's kind of reflected into the design of the bands and how a little bit fancier they might be. And then the other factory, how they're up and coming and, you know, kind of keeping the bands a little bit more simple. But there's, in my mind, there's still a plan for all of it to be able to adjust it and tweak it. You know, we see different companies rebrand their image on bands and stuff like that over time. And I can easily see that occurring as well too, as the relationship progresses and the story progresses with it as well. You know, different factories are going to have access to different types of leaf. Granted, they can get additional leaf, but how that whole story progresses over time is going to be reflected in the marketing, in the bands, in the story. It's not just here's the history. How we've talked about it. Here's kind of the history. Here's kind of how the current state, and here's kind of how it's kind of progressing along. It's almost like growing up, you know, how you look at certain things or how you taste different food as you are as a child compared to as a teenager, compared to a young adult, compared to how it is later on in life. It's almost like your palate when you smoke cigars as well too. So it's all kind of all encompassing as to how that's all going to progress with the marketing, the branding, the relationship, and how that grows, and frankly, how the relationship goes with, you know, different types of tobacco, different types of blends, how that progresses along into the relationships going forward as well too. But there's always a starting point somewhere. You know, you got to start somewhere, and you got to constantly pivot or evolve going forward from there.
So the story would always be tobacco related and related to the factories you are doing it with, and not just say like, look at Crowned Heads. They make things like the Hadley Grange, where they said, okay, I want a flavor profile that kind of resembles the drum solo
Yep.
in a
Yep.
specific song, and you would go this way, but always go the way, okay, this is the tobacco I want to talk, I want to let the cigar talk about, and the factory I want to let the cigar talk about.
Yes. First and foremost, yes, that's the first thing in my mind. Now, I have had thoughts of, you know, having a core line and everything like that. And I think that with it being so early right now, um, it's not out of it's not out of the question. It's not out of the equation of doing something that's, hey, this is core line for the company that I'm building. You know, I I think that there's an opportunity there that it could happen. At my current state, I like to bring the elements of the factory into it. I like to have them kind of also speak to that blend and know that this is what you're getting out of this factory. This is what you're getting out of this other factory. Um, at least that's my thought process on it, at least right now. But it could pivot. It could evolve in some way that, hey, there's a lot of excitement with this one factory. Okay, let's build upon that. Um, do I do I feel that um, that's either biting off more than I can chew, or perhaps having too many eggs in one basket? Um, Perhaps. But Ollie, I geek out on this. Like I think it's great. I think it's wonderful. I think trying multiple different things allows not only myself but people that consume the blends um, speak to it as well too. It allows it to be able to be nimble. It allows it to be able to pivot. Everybody wants to smoke something that's good, and I think that what you experience is what's going to last as well.
Yeah, I do like the small or micro batch approach
Yes.
that you have, and I also think it's very good to just go with like 1, 2, 3 small factories. So they can geek out with you.
Right,
How
right.
does you center basically the blends and cigars around it? But not but just the question for me is, with this, is there a specific target smoker you want to sell your brand, your cigars to? Do you have some kind of an idea about a target audience?
Yes. Anybody and everybody. Well, I say that in an aspect that with these blends that I'm having produced, whether it's mine or that I make or in the factories, I try to, well, I'll talk about the factories. There's certain blends that I'm having produced that are great entry level, that are great for new smokers, that aren't overwhelming, that you could pick up and anybody who's never smoked a cigar before would not be blown away with too much strength, but have the flavors there that uh, may convert them into a more regular cigar smoker. But also, some of the blends are going to be for your experienced folks. There's one that I'm thinking of right now that perfect for a new smoker, but also very refined in the way that an experienced smoker would be able to appreciate it, to pick up different flavors or subtle nuances with it as well too. I think it's a very 50-50. It could target both in a way that both would enjoy it, but also evolve into other blends that I'm going to be releasing to enjoy or try. Okay, I want to try to step this up a little bit more robust, or a little bit more strength, and to see how it is. But give them a good entry level into cigars.
Yeah, I was just wondering because from my experience, when I sit at a lounge, the newbie, they always go for the tried and true, or the tried and established stuff. And it takes a seasoned smoker or a geek go for, like, okay, I don't take the Cuban today, I try a Caldwell or something other boutique like Viaje or stuff. So I was wondering what kind of smoker you would target at the beginning in the first place.
I would say, in the first place, it's going to be new up to your regular smoker. Is where I'm first targeting with the first blends that I'm going to release. Now, within so I'll tell you, there's 5 different blends between 2 different factories. So there's at least 2 that's going to be targeting towards the new ones, new smokers or your average type smokers. And then the remaining 3 are kind of like the evolution of your palate or evolution of what kind of cigars as you get more ingrained in cigar and enjoying tobacco, enjoying smoking cigars on a more regular basis. Here's your journey that takes you through the different types of tobacco, different types of wrappers, different types of combinations that you can experience all in a different way, all in a different flavor, all different strengths. And then, perhaps build upon the vitolas on that. Let's say with the 5 different blends, there's going to be 6 different vitolas. So 6 different sizes. Okay, if, this first one, we want to, somebody wants in a smaller ring gauge or a shorter vitola. Okay, let's take that feedback and take it back to the factory and let's try that out, see how that comes to be. And that could expand upon the individual blends as well too, with getting into different vitolas, which is almost like, like your core line in a sense, where you have the same blend, you're adjusting it into different vitolas, different sizes, different ring gauges, maybe a torpedo or something like that as well too, and see how people like that particular blend in different shapes or sizes.
Yeah, I was just wondering, and I'm basically just spitballing here,
Yeah,
but maybe I would have taken a different approach, and that was why I was asking. So
yeah,
you have some kind of guys that already know what you are doing and could speak of a little fan base. Take Joe, myself, and Steve, and other guys from the dojo. And
hmm
wouldn't it be also quite interesting way to say, okay, at first I target those guys that already know me via the Cigar Dojo or other platforms and make cigar for that small batch, micro batch. We love that.
yep,
And
yep,
take the word of mouth momentum to grow the business.
yep,
You know,
yep. And
basically would be my approach.
I think that with that being said, there's the first one depending upon when they come in, when they arrive, is how I'm kind of looking at releasing them. And I firmly believe that what I'm anticipating as the first one releasing may or may not be the first. Depending upon when they come in, it might be the second or third. However, to the point of the people that, like yourself or Joe or Steve, um, I do firmly believe out of those 5, uh, a large percentage, if not all, might still, I think still applies to you guys as well too. Uh, I think that when I looked at it, I wanted that element in there. However, there's also a lot of people that I've met within the last 7 or so years that I was rolling cigars, that I've gotten an interesting knack of talking to regular people who are casual smokers, may have smoked a couple cigars here and there, and there's a decent amount of them that I had a play in getting them into being regular cigar smokers. Uh, I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but I will say that there are people that all different walks of life that enjoy different flavors, different pairings, um, like trying various unique and different things, whether it's to different drinks, different types of food, just different types of experiences of what they're wanting to enjoy. Um, in a cigar, or pairings with different types of things.
All right. Since we now can't feature film length with this,
Yeah.
I would just stop it at that for now.
Okay.
If you have anything that you might want to add, well,
Well, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate this opportunity. I think that it is no better person to start talking about, kicking off a brand and this process of going through, you know, um, building it, and doing a lot of it, if not, I would say 90% of it on my own. I do think that, there is an opportunity for anyone to do something similar. I do think that, a lot of companies say this, is that you have to have the passion. You have to have, the self drive. Um, you know, it's not always perfect, and it's not always fun all the time, but you have to have that passion above all else in order to build it and bring it to the market. And you have to constantly be talking. You have to always be um, being real, being open, and sharing your experience, and helping to educate, but also talk and answer questions that other people might have. And I'm not claiming to be the smartest person out there, but um, you know every single day it's just repetition, going in and doing all these things on a regular basis. It's consistency. There's no shortcuts. There's no um, easy way. And that's one thing that I think is very exciting, is it's time. And time is the most precious thing that you can put into anything, and that time is what should show in your finished product, and what you're trying to do. Um, and that's what I hope that everybody will enjoy once they get to taste all these blends, and once they're more readily available.
well, great inspirational work to end this on.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm very impressed by Jeff's passion. I really dig the way he's doing something with all his heart and elbow grease, but still remains adaptable enough to constantly pivot to make it work, maybe even better by failing forward. Next time, I'll talk with Jeff about the factories that are his collaborative and creative partners, and I'll ask him what he thinks you need to get into the cigar business with a new brand nowadays. See you around.